Hey, good morning. This is going to have to be a super quick video, and I know I say that every time and they always end up being like 20-25 minutes long, but this is going to have to be a super quick video because I am mega busy. Put simply, I'm not going to be at work for the best part of a week and a bit. I'm actually off somewhere else, so I need to make sure everything is okay here for whoever's covering for me. So I've got to squeeze in a quick update video as to where I am with this build, and I think in the last video I said I needed to remake the headstock, sort of decal, and also I keep saying scratch plate, but it's not really a scratch plate because it's the entire front of the guitar. But for want of a better term, the scratch plate. So the scratch plate and the headstock needed to be rebuilt. And to do that, I needed to order another sheet of perspex, which I did. The problem is that if we're still using the same sort of like Tony Stark analogies, this is the Mark III, because basically it makes me sound like I haven't ballsed it up a couple of times. So if we call this the Mark III, the time in between each of the different iterations of the scratch plate is coincidentally exactly the same amount of time it takes for me to forget how much I hate working with perspex as a medium. It is so brittle and so, it's not even fragile. It's just a case of you can put different amounts of pressure on different bits of perspex and it will either crack in one spot or won't. It's completely luck based. There's no sort of like certain amount of pressure in a certain space. It just seems to be completely random. Now, last time I made the entire scratch paint, it was painted, it was cut, it looked amazing. But as soon as I was putting in the very last bit, which were the little plastic ferrules for the string holes, like the through body string sort of ferrules, it snapped and I was gutted because, like I said, it was finished and it looked really good. So much, I was so gutted in fact that I booted it across the room, which when you filed that thing down to a knife edge really does slice your foot open. So the old one was out and I needed to redo that. The headstock as well, I was really unhappy with, and I've redone both now. So last week, ordered a new sheet of perspex, redone the scratch plate, redone the headstock, and I am so happy with it. And as they were basically the two last bits of the puzzle, it's kind of done. I'm just waiting for some strings to arrive, and then when I'm finished what I'm doing next week, I'm gonna do there's a few little, a lick of paint here and a little bit of sealant there. But then once that's up and done, it's literally put strings on it, do the intonation, and it's finished. So I'm really excited to be at the end of this project now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started showing you, I'll hold off showing you the finished product for now. I just quickly want to go through the headstock because that was the thing that had the biggest change, and then I'll quickly show you the finished product. Okay, so the headstock itself needed to serve two functions. One was to hide the access port for the flame launcher. So what I needed to be able to do, because I couldn't access it from the back because that's where the machine heads are, I needed to access the small little launcher filament holder that I built. So it's back in an old video, whichever corner this appears in. So basically it was two little prongs with a piece of resistance wire in between them, and that goes then into a tube which then shoots out. So what I needed to do was be able to change that filament wire because it will burn out. You can get a good, like, I think I got the last one was like a good 20, 25, maybe even 30 launches from one piece of wire because it's only on for a split second. But I still do need to change it. Now, the way that the headstock is built, if the filament wire burns out, it meant that I'd have to take all the strings off, and then I'd have to unscrew all the bits around the individual machine heads, and then remove them, and then take off the entire piece of perspex, then change the filament wire, then put it back on, then redo all the machine heads, then restring it. That was not going to happen. So I needed some kind of trapdoor or some kind of flap to put into the front so I could still access it, but then it needed to also look good. It couldn't look like a battery cover or something like that. It needed to look cool. The second thing it needed to do was, just like the rest of the guitar, I mean, even the small details like the glow-in-the-dark fret markings, or the back of the headstock, or every little thing has to be in the theme of the movie. Like, that was important. It has to somehow fit in. So it couldn't just be something that looked out of place. Everything needed to have those details in. Like the strap as well. Like, everything needs to have those details in. So, a bit like the front of the body, which this is the third one, so there was another two before that. Just like that, there was a headstock. And the first one I was super not happy with. Like, really not happy with it. But it did teach me some valuable lessons. So after, like, each iteration, I've learned something new, like learned what not to do mostly. But let me show you the first one, so the Mark 1, if you like. I hate this, but it served as a good proof of concept. Now, what this is a piece of Perspex, just like the scratch plate. I figured if I'm going to do a cover, I might as well make it out of the materials that I already have. So the idea was that I was going to put the name of the guitar, Regan, across the front there. This font is way, way too big. On the day of printing it, for some reason I was like, let's make it bigger. And then it was just way too big. It's not centralized because the headstock was cut really badly in the Chinese factory or wherever it was made. So the text didn't line up perfectly. It's bad. So I scrapped that. But it did teach me some really... Oh, and I put a little cross there, which I don't know why I put it that way up. It should really be the other way up, because when it's hung, it's like that. And I mean, yeah, that's kind of in theme, but I don't know. And that this cross doesn't appear in the movie at all. It was just something that I put on there on the quick. Basically, yeah, really not happy with it. But it did teach me certain things. The first thing it taught me is that this acetate that I was using, because this is a... Let's see if I can... See that? That's actually a layer of acetate on clear. You can see my eye through it. Clear. Hello. Perspex. So, the one thing that this acetate doesn't like, I mean, it likes laserjet printers, really hates super glue. Now, if you look around those machine heads and try and get it in the light, you can see just there it is in the light. Just around that machine head, it's kind of like a fried egg. You've got the hole in the middle, but then around it you've got this weird kind of texture. And that is where the super glue hasn't reacted with the Perspex, which I did test before I did anything with super glue, but it's reacted with the acetate and the paint as well. This paint that I bought was like that, I forget the brand, it's called like 151 or 152. It's not expensive, but it's supposed to be better than just like standard, you know, aerosol paint, and it's really not. It's not very good paint. Anyway, so it tends to flake a lot more than 151 paint, which I wasn't a fan of. I mean, you can see it here. Look, you can see the way it's just kind of come off a little bit. It flakes more than, you know, my usual pound shop fare. So yeah, that was the idea. And the idea was that I would print it on the underneath, on a sheet of acetate, stick it to the underneath, then paint on top of that. That way, when you're at the front, you can scratch it, ding it. The strings, like when you're putting it in, maybe you'll use some needle nose pliers, whatever, and it won't scratch the paint, it will just scratch the top. Standard for me. This square in the middle is so you can access the launcher. So what I had was, I built, and I'll show you on the finished product, I built a little piece here, which is attached to a hinge, and then you push in and it kind of pops out. I did measure as well where the strings will go, and it will kind of cut off because the nut is down here. The strings will go over this piece, but you'll still have enough room to pull it out once it's strung up. Therefore, you don't need to take any of this off to change the thing. All you've got to do is pull open this little, you know, essentially a little trapdoor, pull open the trapdoor, pull out the launcher, and then you can put it in like you're loading a magazine. You just slide it in and then slide it up. Then close the panel, done. So yeah, so this was the, like I say, the Type 1 prototype, and it didn't even, like the super glue didn't even hold it properly. Essentially the machine heads were supposed to hold it in, but even then it's just Not great, like really not good. So I thought, I need to redesign this. What am I going to redesign it with? And I also need to find a way of sticking it on properly. That's where I came up with this. So I bought some more acetate, but it's not normal acetate. This is self-adhesive acetate. So unlike what I was using there, which is just plain and quite thick actually, essentially a plastic vinyl sheet, this is obviously got a yellow backing paper on, so you can't see through it, which makes lining it up really hard, but it is transparent and it is self-adhesive. So what I needed to do was, when I printed, say this, what I would need to do is print it back to front on the clear side of this. And then when I stick it to that, you'll see through the acetate and it will be the right way around. So essentially just sticking it on that way with the words printed on backwards. But what words? That was the issue. I needed to redesign it. So I had a quick think and I was like, it's got to be in the theme. Like, it has to be in the theme of the movie and it needs to look cool. And if I can disguise that trapdoor even better. So there's a lot going into it. And I don't know how I stumbled on it, but I was like, oh, that would look really cool. I thought, why not just cover it with text? Because text will hide everything. But what text? Like, when you're thinking about the theme, there's really only one little bit of text you can go to. So I hit up the internet, went to Google and downloaded a scan, a PDF of a 16th century book of Catholic rites, under the supervision, I think it was like Pope Benedict XIV. So I downloaded this book of Catholic rites, and one of the rites, right at the very end, almost as if they were kind of like, is the Catholic rite of exorcism in Latin. All of this is in Latin, and I haven't done Latin for many years, and when I did, I wasn't very good at it. You might get a puella in casa est, casam est, cana est. Anyway, I wasn't very good at Latin, so I can't read any of it, but some of those words kind of stick out. So what I did was I picked that and I printed it just onto a standard bit of paper. And as you can see here, I've modelled it, and you can see it against my shirt. You see they've got the machine heads in there? There you go. So just modelled it on this template. So it's all very well on paper, but I can't just put the plastic on top. So what I did was I took this image and reversed it, like completely mirror imaged it. Then printed it on this self-adhesive acetate, cut a new piece of Perspex and stuck it to the back, so that when it's stuck on there, it's now the right way around. Then how do I get the back white? Because it's clear through, see-through. I didn't want to use the 151 paint again, because like I said, it's a bit flaky, and even though it's not expensive, it's not great. Go back to Old Faithful. Stick with what you know. Pound shop car paint. To date, it hasn't let me down. Like, this stuff is super reliable for 99 pence. The lady has to come over and do it on the till for you, because at age 39, I'm still not old enough to buy this. But you know what I mean. It's super reliable. It does get a bit gooey. If you're doing more than one layer, you really need to let it dry. And even then, it has a kind of gelatinous kind of texture to it, but that can work in your favor if you use very sharp knives. You can kind of manipulate the sort of like gel-like paint, which I'll get to in a minute. So I did a test piece, and this is the test piece. Now this is very specifically done. So what I've done is the acetate's on the bottom and it's printed in reverse. So as you can see, it goes through the thing. Now, what I've done here on this side, I've spray painted it white with the car paint, because again, it was a tester, and this side I've left clear. So on this side, you can see through, and then as I move my hands, they disappear. And that allowed me to push it up against the wood and find out exactly how many coats of paint I needed, as opposed to nothing. So as you can see, it actually looked really pretty good for a tester. I mean, there's a lot of bubbles in there because I didn't get all the dust out. Like when you put this transparent acetate onto a piece of plastic, you have to make sure that it is completely free of dust, because that dust will raise the acetate almost like a tent with a pole underneath, and you'll get quite a large circle, whereas the dust particle can be really small. Or bits of, you know, like where you've been cutting the perspex. Anyway, so this was the tester, and it looked to me pretty good, and it would allow me to hide this trapdoor a lot better than that, really. Plus, I really don't like that. Anyway, so the headstock was now covered with this, like I say, 16th century Latin Catholic rite of exorcism. Which, I mean, if nothing else, like, you got to feel sorry for the people that have to monitor people's Google searches, but at least whoever's monitoring my Google searches at least is, you know, getting to look at something interesting. I mean, if you're not downloading a Pope Benedict XIV book of Catholic rites, what are you doing with the internet, frankly? Playing Halo? Nerd. So yeah, so there was that. So that's now the headstock. Right, what I'm quickly going to do is show you the guitar now. I'm going to move you from here down to here, show you the guitar, show you kind of what it looks like and where I am now. Like I say, there are a few little things left to do. It's not screwed in. The bridge is put in, the pickup's put in, but it's not finished yet. Also, one other thing that I quickly want to point out, and I know I do this on most videos, but I think it bears repeating because I don't want someone to look at what I've done and go, man, that looks really cool, but I couldn't do that. Yeah, you can. Like, everything that you're about to see, as far as this build goes, has all been done without power tools. Like, other than a soldering iron, all of my power tools haven't been used. My drill, the thing that I used to drill with the pilot holes, that broke basically at the start of this project. So even for the pilot holes, I've been using this little, I think this cost a couple of quid on eBay. It's like a little jewelry hand drill. So you basically just put the drill bit in and just turn it. It's great for pilot holes, but it's also great for perspex because a power drill would be no good anyway. It would just shatter it. So yeah, for the wood itself, all of the perspex, everything, not only am I using like cheap materials, I'm also using hand files. Like, I've got a large file, I've got these small files, I've got a hacksaw. Like, these aren't expensive at all. Like, I'm doing all of this with hand tools. I don't have a workshop. I'm doing this in my lunch break. Like, I definitely do not have a workshop. I can't bring power tools to work. So I'm doing it with these. So yeah, it bears repeating. If you're watching this video and go, oh man, I'd love to do something like that, give it a shot. And don't forget, you're going to have failures. Like, the perspex will slap. The paint will, you know, will screw up at some point. It's going to happen. You're going to need to not expect to do this in one go overnight. But it's definitely doable. Forget all those YouTube videos and Facebook videos and Instagram videos of guy making a guitar and he's got like a lathe and a workshop and a jigsaw and he's got like a table saw and you see him with all like the glue and then he goes to a wall and it's got like a zillion files on it. Mate, get yourself down to the pound shop. Get yourself down to Wilco's. Get yourself down to anywhere that sells 99p cast paint. And just give it a go. It ain't going to be great, it ain't going to be perfect, but it needs to be good enough. And you can cover up a multitude of sins with enough paint and sandpaper. Trust me, it's definitely doable. And here we go. Here is the finished article. Now, I've had to come upstairs because I wanted a nice dark wall. So there's a little bit of echo or a little bit of reverb in here, but let me just move in because I want to show you this headstock. So as you can see, this now completely disguises that little trapdoor and looks awesome. So like I said before, this is just layers. So going from the outside where we are all the way through to the actual headstock itself, on the outside you have a clear piece of perspex. Behind that you have self-adhesive clear acetate, and then behind that you have several layers of car paint, then you have the headstock. So you see through the first 2 layers and then you just hit the car paint. So yeah, I really like the way that looked. The other thing that you can't really see here is that this is actually tapered as well, so it's not square. There is actually a tapered edge just inside, so it's nice and smooth. Really does fit the headstock well. By pushing down on here, that little pops out there, and then you have this little trapdoor, and inside you can see, I'm going to go into the light so you can't really see, but inside that is the flame launcher, so you can pull that out and change the filament wire. What I did was I actually took a drill bit and put it through another piece of plastic and super glued it on the back, so that hinge is actually a drill bit through another piece of perspex stuck on with super glue. But yeah, what you do is once you change the filament, pop it back, completely flush. And that'll even work with the strings over. Even though those strings will go just over these corners, you'll still be able to put your finger in there because the hinge is actually about here. So you'll still be able to put your fingers down there, push, and then pull that up. So yeah, and then moving down to the body itself, the pickup's in, the volume knob is in. These are the really hard plastic ferrules that just make it look a little bit neater. So the strings will go through these holes here and then out the back. The bridge is in, the blood pipe is in. I haven't screwed the body on yet because when those last switches arrive, which I'm still waiting for from AliExpress, when they arrive, I am going to do one final blood test because I want to make sure that the latex tubing that I bought hasn't degraded and the blood just sort of flow inside. So I haven't screwed on the scratch plate yet. It is being held in by the bridge, but like I say, I want to do one final test before I put it all together and then seal it with bathroom sealant. This is going to have bathroom sealant all the way around it. This is going to have bathroom sealant all the way around it. Very thin bead, but it stops the blood going into the guitar. All the rest of this is why I put the sort of ferrules down here. The blood will go around it, not inside the guitar. This volume knob is just a light switch knob, so that goes on there. And yeah, that's it. It looks absolutely rad as hell. I am really happy with the way this turned out. What I'm going to do now is quickly put this down on the table, run over to the light switch, turn that off, and then I'll show you the brand new and improved help me sign. Also, one other thing I should add, inside here as well, behind this scratch plate, is all copper tape. So the pickup itself is in a complete Faraday cage. Everything is grounded. Bridge is grounded, pickup's grounded, the input jack down here also grounded. Everything is grounded, so there should be, fingers crossed, touch wood, no hum, no buzz, nothing. It should be nice and crystal clear. All right, let's go and show you that sign. Okay, so I've laid it down and I'm kind of Blair Witching it with my my phone's flash here. What I'm going to do is turn the flash off and quickly show you the help me sign. Okay, so the flash is off and there we go. So that's it on the lowest end. Now you'll see a little bit of light bleed here. That's because the scratch plate isn't actually attached. If I push it down, that bleed will disappear. There you go, see? So because the scratch plate isn't screwed on yet, because like I say, I've still got to do the switches, that's why. So you'll see a little bit of light bleed, but let me turn it up a bit because that's on its lowest. If I turn it up, whoa. Yeah, so again, the camera isn't going to do this a lot of justice, but I mean, let's just go over to the other side of the room over here. Yep, over to the other side of the room, and boy, this thing is bright. So yeah, like I say, once it's all attached, there'll be no light bleed and all you will see is the wording, but god damn, that is bright. And let's turn it back to where it's normally. Right, that's where it goes normally. yeah, I mean, I can leave that battery on forever and that will just be quite happily there. Like, to be honest, giving it the full 9 volts is way too bright. If anything, you want it about there on its kind of lowest setting. But yeah, I'm really, really, really happy with the way that turned out. And then just like before, once you turn it off, back here, let's do the Blair Witch thing again. There you go. You would never know. Like, it's completely clean white, which is good because it's supposed to come, it's like the movie, it's supposed to be a shock, it's supposed to be unexpected, it's supposed to come out of nowhere, and that's why it goes from white to the red. Okay, so like I say, that was a super quick update. While I'm here, we are basically ready to go. I think the next video might possibly be the last one, and that's once I've spent however long it takes to get the strings on and set the intonation up and get it sounding good. I might have a quick playthrough and maybe see if I can get all of the features working. Obviously not at the same time, but at least in the same sort of session. Like, maybe play a song and have all of the features going one after the other, maybe. Like I say, I'm still waiting for these AliExpress to get a move on. But, like I say, overly, all done. And I'm really, really happy with it. It looks amazing. I still can't get over how good this thing looks. I am really, really excited to play it. And then once it's done and it's all set up, maybe look for a buyer. Like, if someone's interested, I don't know. You'd have to have very specific tastes. I'm just trying not to fall in love with it, which is very, very hard. Because, I mean, look at this thing. Seriously? Like, who wouldn't, right? Oh, it is a lovely, lovely thing. All right, cool. Well, yeah, like I say, in the next one, let's see it in action. Let's hear how it sounds. Let's see the functions in, you know, in action, and yeah, let's have a play with it. All right, cool. Peace.